Hello, Lena.
Hello.
I'm very happy to have this great opportunity to meet you today and to do this interview with you. I'm beginning with the same question for all the singers I'm interviewing. Could you introduce yourself in a few words?
I'm a singer and musician and composer, and well, and I have a daughter now 21. I love to be outdoors and yeah, that's good.
Okay,
That's my few words.
and where do you live?
I live in the archipelago outside Stockholm, like about 42 kilometers east of Stockholm.
Okay,
So I live by the sea
okay,
in an old house together with my daughter.
great.
Mm.
And how would you describe your musical style or musical work?
I it's it's a love, and well, I grew up with folk music, traditional folk music. I grew up in a small village, and I had my masters in well, like the herding tradition. Um, that's women music,
Okay.
and eh, maybe if you want to talk more about that, but I try to do it short now, and then you can dive into some more questions. But I grew up, so I helped a lot and got the tradition from the women up in the mountain farm with the animals.
Wow.
And so when I grew up, it was quite ancient, the village, but still also the modern time. So it was I don't know, in Swedish we say conglomerat. It's a mix of different music styles. Of course, the tradition, I fell in love with folk music, but I also played the piano in the music school and singing in the chapel choir and listening to Radio Luxembourg, playing romantic teenager songs on the guitar. My first composition was when I was 12 years old. Very romantic and sad. But still, this is my ground. And then I moved to Stockholm to study when I was 18 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk more about everything. And then I met a jazz musician. I only had heard on the radio at home in the village, like famous Swedish singer Monica Zetterlund. Uh, and of course, Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald. But it was not that uh, often you could hear. So, but still you could hear, the accordion club at home. They played Dinah and like that. So it was kind of very open and very much music, live music when I grew up. But still, my root is, and my life in a way is the folk music.
Okay.
I went to many roads trying to discover how to be more free, but from that root.
Okay, very interesting. And so when you were 18, you began to study music in a high school or
In the Conservatorium in
conservatory?
Stockholm. Yeah. So
Was it for the voice and for the violin
it
or
was actually to be my first 4 years was to be a music teacher
okay.
and pedagogue, and then I sang, or I continued in a soloist education,
Mm-hmm.
that I could choose. When I started in the Conservatorium, it was like just Western classical music, and also, well, it was a little pedagogue education for jazz musicians or folk musicians, but it was just the pedagogue thing. It
Okay.
was not, yeah. So, and it was like they had to be more into the technique to teach at the music schools and like that.
Yes.
But I continued in a it was quite new then. It was a education called oh my god, I cannot find the English word, but for uh, individual soloist education. So I chose to continue with my folk music, improvisation, jazz, and uh, modern classical music, where I could use my voice, not
Okay.
be a classical singer.
Okay.
So, and when I did the, when I did the, what do you say when you are apply the tests
Yeah.
for the and in the jury, uh, there was a man, Lasse Bagge, who was a famous arranger and fantastic pianist. He actually sounds like Chet Baker when he sings, and also he played the flugelhorn. And he just went to me and said, "Please, can you come to? I have a vocal group, a really famous vocal group that would had a revival. They were really big in the 60s." And then he said, "We need a lead singer." Okay, and so I just went to them, and then uh, it was a famous jazz vocalist group. So I actually stood between Svante Thuresson, a famous jazz male singer in Sweden, and between a fantastic pianist, Monica Dominic, and learned like the way I learned folk music, like listening uh,
Mm.
and trying to catch the different sounds, the different phrasing, uh, because that suits me. I am a listener,
Okay.
and yeah, so it was really fantastic for me. And we made big shows and worked with fantastic like Tage Danielsson, Beppe Wolgers. Maybe it doesn't say anything for you, but they are icons here in Sweden. So for me, it was a really school, the first school in the jazz phrasing, and yeah. And I also fell in love very early when I was 18 to a jazz musician, and he took me to the jazz clubs in Stockholm, and well, a new world opened for me. Yeah, but in the beginning, I mean, I could continued, and I always do. I am a folk singer that has expanded into different expressions. Expressions,
Yeah.
yeah. So actually, I would not call me a jazz singer, but I'm a free free folk singer in a way. Yeah.
It's a good, yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? Because
Absolutely.
mm,
Absolutely.
mm,
And what are you looking to transmit with your music?
transmit,
To
develop, or
to give to the others, or to,
with my music.
yeah.
Um, I actually, when I'm singing or playing, especially singing, I don't think. in a way, I have a memory. Well, of course, I think I'm not of course, sometimes you really have to memorize, everything, but when the flow comes, it is there. And I actually, when I was a kid, my father was very sick. He had a heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
So he was actually on hospital for long periods. And my mother in that village had two small children, really hard. And we we struggled actually, but we got help from the village. They came with when my father could not fish and hunt and like that, they came with meat and fish and vegetables, and we so it's actually was we got very much help from the village in that time, but still my mother had to cook and like do everything. And there was a birch tree outside the kitchen window,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked to climb up there because it was a branch
Yes.
really good, like you could sit and look uh, northwest
Okay.
to the mountains. And I was like just singing, improvising, but I did not know it was the term
Yeah.
improvising. Uh, and I felt completely whole, and I felt both small and big, and
Mm-hmm.
everything was connecting. And that feeling is the most important in every musical situation. So, of course, um, I want to, maybe that's my wish, to give something that transforms, to, like, the music comes, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot decide over the music, but the music comes in a way. Of course, you are the so there's a nice word in Swedish, like förmedla. You just give it
Mm-hmm.
further on to, and that's my wish, to yeah, to I don't want to sound too romantic, but to open the the people's heart.
Mm.
I think that's the wish for every musician.
Yeah, of course.
So and also it's so important, and in this time when the world is just crazy, it's crazy and unbelievable what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to keep up the strength, and but the music, I think we really need it. We need it more than ever. This are sentences that people really say right now, but I also want to say it. Mm.
Yeah. It's beautiful. You
And
were.
when I had two teachers in my home village, uh, that was that are very important for me. Uh, Ekor Andersson, he's was a fiddler, knew every herb and everything in the nature by name of Swedish. Älvdalska, the language or the dialect we speak in my home village and the
Mm.
area around. It's completely different from Swedish and
Okay.
Latin. And he actually, I he gave me his tradition in music. And when he was lying on the way to die, he took my hand and he said in the dialect that Now it's you. And that chain is very important in folk music. And the same did my precious teacher, a woman called Svetsmärta Eriksson. She did the same. Now it's you.
Okay.
And it's kind of, it's also important for me what I want. I want to have the ground and the root and expand and put Lena into that river of music and tradition and new things and everything, and give it further on.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what represents the tradition for you, but now I have kind of an answer already. I don't know if you want to add something.
I think for me, the tradition have meant so much, the traditional music, the forming a wish to form a really personal language. And that, I think, is very, very the similar in both folk music and jazz, that you try to make it really your own way to sing or play. That's different from Western classical music. If a soprano gets sick in a Rossini opera, you can bring another. That I don't mean that there are good and bad singers in that area also, of course, and personal, but in a way, you cannot do that because you have your own expression as a folk musician and jazz musician in a way. And yeah, and also, I mean, like when I was up in the mountain farm in the summers and taking care of the cows, first the goats, because they are easier, they are quicker, but they are not so, and then the cows, and the herding call and the way of calling is so much more than you hear, like that high pitched fantastic, but you sometimes you are close to the animals, then you have to do it in another way, like really, and the cows are stubborn, so you have to convince them and also improvise. You have to do it now. You cannot decide. You have, of course, melisms or some sounds and like that works, but you have to improvise. That's my first improvising area, and that follows me in my improvisation. It's kind of be connected to the ground and up.
And do you think the jazz tradition is a part of your musical universe?
Yes, it is, because, but not the way. I'm not a Sarah Vaughan, I'm not an Ella Fitzgerald, but I love jazz music, and I worked a lot with jazz musicians. And maybe in the beginning it was more like now it's jazz, now it's folk music, and it can still be sometimes, but I prefer to like use my folk tradition in the jazz music very much. And I also use the more free thinking, maybe like folk music was before. If you go back, more improvising, searching freedom, because it's a high density in folk music.
Yeah.
the melody, it's so strong and so compact in a way. And for me to find the freedom and like that is also important. So I think both areas, if you want to put it that way, have really, really inspired me both ways.
It's quite obvious the tradition has an important place in your music. Do you think there's also a place for modernity in your music?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I live now. And it's, oh,
Sorry, I
no,
don't live in
nothing.
the close to the sea. I just live in
Yeah.
the center of a city.
No, yeah. You have to have all. I mean, I am 62 now, and I have all the ages inside me, and the curiosity. That's modernity for me. Curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. How you do it? Well, there are millions of ways to do modernity or go into that. But to be now and curious and have a wish to develop.
And do you think you create a link between the tradition and the present day artistic expression?
Yes.
Can you explain how?
No. No, not really. I cannot analyze that.
Okay.
But I think I feel I do it. I feel that I do it. I mean, when I grew up in this small little village, it was fantastic in so many ways, but also a kind of a, what do you call it? Well, you have to do like this because this is the tradition, and you cannot, and that's bullshit because artistic folk music have been ever. I mean, there are artists in folk music, and there are people that want to preserve. So I think I'm one of the artistic persons in that flow. There have always been artistic persons in the flow.
Yeah.
Folk music, jazz musicians, and modern contemporary classical music. And I think, I feel, and I feel that I am a link because I maybe also, moving from the village is kind of, when you move from the village, I have been there so much. I mean, I didn't move totally, but I mean, not in mentally, and I also have my mountain farm. My parents are dead now since many years, but I had them going back. I mean, I was 18 when I moved to Stockholm. And in a way, I could develop like maybe an older way of singing and playing in my own way. Maybe if I had stayed there, I would have been more, more, aware of what's happening there with them. But now I could develop from maybe a kind of older way in the way of singing and playing and expand that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's the link.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. And talking about jazz, you were talking about Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan. And according to you, what are the main characteristics of European jazz?
Oh, European jazz. Well, I mean, when I played with so many fantastic musicians. If I go like more, if I go more with people I work in Sweden together with, like for example Anders Jormin,
Yeah,
fantastic bass
bass
player.
player.
I worked so much with him.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are playing together and people react on that, it's kind of they say, ah, it's, or Jonas Knutsson, the fantastic
Yeah,
player. Um, it's kind of a, or I mean, Britta Virves, a fantastic piano player, or Elise Einarsdotter, or Jocke Milder, saxophone player, or Palladonis. It's so many. It's kind of a what people are saying when they are listening to it. They say it's a very listening to each other, and a kind of space for the music. Maybe it's the space of this country. I don't know. I think also maybe we are all in a way more or less aware of the sounds of the nature. I'm not sure. And I'm not good at analyzing that. But this is reactions I get from the audience, the listeners.
okay.
Mm.
And what would be your musical influences?
Oh my God, so many. Of course, those I mentioned at home. And there was a fantastic fiddler also called Kristina Ståhl Cedervall. A woman played the fiddle, fantastic. She's like 13 years older than me. So she was a star when I grew up. And there were not so many female fiddlers at that time. And the women in the mountain farm, that music, the herding music. And then my sister fell in love with a Dutch guy when she was 16. I was 13. She was on a holiday on Rhodos, the Greek island, and he was a kind of a sing and song musician, like a troubadour. And he knew that I was sat in this little village with my guitar making those romantic teenager songs. So when he visited, I was 14 then, he brought me Joni Mitchell, a record, a LP, and that opened a universe for me. So Joni Mitchell, of course, Aretha Franklin, um, uh, a fantastic singer, like like 60 kilometers from I grew up, named Dansare Edvard Jonsson, and he's a big inspiration for me. And yeah, Coltrane. There are so many. And also like Keith Jarrett, Arvo Pärt. Oh, there are so many, so many.
It's okay. That means those ones are maybe the most relevant or
Mm.
important for now, coming to your mind.
Mm.
Could you maybe talk a little bit more about your roots and the way you were learning with those women?
Mm. Well, it was like master pupil like a way. So you listened and härma, what's that? Try to do it the same.
Okay.
What's
Repeat,
that?
like repeat.
Repeat, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And
So it was
with the
always
oral
oral
tradition.
tradition. Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
Both in herding music and singing and fiddling. Oral tradition.
Okay.
So yeah, and then you get more and more like up in the mountain farm, more and more responsibility, and suddenly you will bring the cows home by yourself. So it's listening, learning, and repeat, and make it your own. That's very important.
That means that if you would have stayed there, you would have been learning to the young girls, or
Yeah. Now I mean, I have students coming now and then, and they, I mean, so I do it, but I know also that many of the young, because when I started to, I mean, tour and have bands and doing everything, there was not so many women. I mean, really few.
mm-hmm.
So I know that I mean a lot to the younger uh, women and girls, and like the elder one meant for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not have, so many female that I could look up to. Um, so it was kind of a different situation, and quite hard in the male area when I started to arrange, compose, and have like my opinion, my thing to do. So there were only male musicians, almost very few in both
Okay.
in both folk music and jazz here.
Okay.
When I started, I started when I was like 20, like when I was 18. I had my first band in Stockholm when I moved.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a trip.
Yes, it's super interesting. So
Yeah.
that means that for the men, there isn't the same way of learning with the oral
Yeah,
tradition,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, of course.
it's in
But I
parallel.
mean, like, if I take it more when I was like began to tour and have
Mm-hmm.
a musical career in a way.
Mm-hmm. But it does exist also for the men.
Oh yes,
Yes.
yeah. You mean the herding call?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. There are very few. That it's women music,
Okay.
but if there were like elder men, like couldn't have the physical strength
Yeah.
working in the woods or with yeah, with more heavy things, They could be up in the mountain farm, but it's not so common. Maybe small boys also that could run and fix things like that.
Okay.
But it's women music mainly. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
The herding tradition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And which one of your different projects in your career is the most relevant to you?
The most relevant?
So one project that's coming to your mind now.
I cannot choose. I think also always that the most relevant is the one that I'm into right
Yeah.
now. I've done so much, and I have the fantastic luck and opportunity to work with people I love to work with,
Mm.
to make music together with. I'm a really lucky person in that way. Very much.
I also see that you work with the same people on a very long period
Yeah.
of time. Yeah.
And it's so fantastic. And then the mix of the long term and the new one.
Mm.
That's a good mix for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Both long term and now. Oh, I haven't met you before. It's fantastic to do that mix, long
Yeah.
term and short. Mhm. Mm.
And
And now
yeah,
you know what I'm doing now.
still working for your next ECM album?
Yeah,
Yes, with
it will be
Anders
no, no, it
Jormin.
will be the record is done. Everything is ready, so it will be released in January, I think.
Yeah.
ECM. And I am the first folk singer, not being an opera singer, that I'm doing a main role at the Royal Opera here in Stockholm,
Wow, fantastic.
written for me. So I worked together with a composer for many years, Karin Rehnqvist. So I'm actually singing at the Royal Opera now. It's really fantastic. So
Yeah.
that's a new thing, but it's I like to be challenged, to jump, and I also like to be in secure fields. But I love just to that okay, I'm just totally not okay. I jump.
Mm-hmm.
That's I love.
Yeah, fantastic. New challenges. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Mm.
Let's talk about the melody in the music, in your music. What is the role of the melody for you? Which place does the melodic part have in your singing?
The melodies,
Yeah.
they mean to me. Or, okay, um, oh, the melody is really important. It's kind of, but also sounds and everything is important. It's, a really good melody is fantastic. It's like that is the melody can give you different bridges, like bridges, over the water, or no, um,
Some links or some
link. When you have
des ponts, bridges.
bridge, a
Bridges.
bridge,
Yeah.
uh, different bridges
Yeah.
to go further on
Yeah.
with the music,
Mm-hmm.
develop, or just really give your heart into the melody, it can expand to something fantastic with the improvisation.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's the melody and the melody and the lyrics, the sound in that. I want to bring that into the freedom, not, melody and then a solo, whatever. A sad song, I make a happy improvisation. That's not for me. I like to go further, jump from the melody into that feeling and expand that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And looking and listening to your very large discography, so I tried to look for other languages than for your texts, you know. So I don't know, is everything in Swedish?
No. When I sing in English, you notice, but Swedish and my other language from
Yeah.
Älvdalska.
Älvdalska.
Älvdalska. Yeah.
Oh.
And that, if I say a sentence, like a very first in English, Swedish, and Älvdalska, you will notice the difference now. So we are sitting here with each other and talking. Okay, in Swedish, vi sitter här tillsammans och talar. And in my dialect, situm är min wenanan ogakudirum.
Oh, it's totally
So
different.
you hear the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I write very many lyrics in my home dialect.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up with two languages, could say. And that language is so rich with sounds and everything. Because I think if you have a lyric, you have the meaning of the lyric, of course, and you can feel the meaning of the lyric, and you can notice with your brain what it's all about. But the sound in the word, each word or a phrase, can also go deep into your system, heart and stomach and brain. So the sound can also give such a rich experience in a way.
And do you think you use your voice differently in every language?
The sound of the language is different. But I don't know if it's impossible to know. But like when I sing in the dialect, it's kind of more things to, it's maybe more earthy, the dialect, I would say.
Because now when you were talking the same phrase in the three languages, your voice was more or less the same. So it was not quite obvious that the sound of the voice was very different. So it looks like you use the same kind of
flavor.
yeah vibrations.
I don't know.
Okay. I know you don't analyze so much. I'm here with my questions. And also you were talking about improvisation. So is it important for you to improvise in your music?
Yes. But it's also very important to make a melody my own.
Mm.
Like in folk music, you add ornamentations,
Mm-hmm.
small things all the way, blue notes very much. So to form, to shape a melody by my own is very important. So
Yeah.
it's the both ways are very important. It's a little bit different, but that's also an improvisation because I do it different every time. Every time will be different.
Mm-hmm.
With the ornamentations and with the
Okay.
Mm.
The way you sing the melody is every time different. The interpretation.
I would say that.
Yeah.
Maybe small differences and sometimes big.
Okay.
Mm.
And do you, when you improvise,
Mm.
so it's really like instinctively that it's coming, or do you work on your improvisation, or?
It depends on what kind of. I like. I'm not so good at improvising if it's very tricky harmonies. That's
Mm-hmm.
not. But the model improvisation I love, and if it's few harmonies, I love. But you know what I mean. It's very
Yeah.
tricky harmony. That's not me. But when I improvise, it's very in by instinct. But sometimes I get when I work with jazz musicians, oh, this is the harmony schedule. Try, and then I mean I have to work on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have like many different ways, and then suddenly when it's now maybe it's a mix of everything or just a jump off from that.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, when especially when it's tricky harmonies, I would tricky for me harmonies. I would say I have to work more. But if it's a model improvisation or a few chords, then it's very instinctive and in
Mm-hmm.
instinct. Mm.
And when the harmony is difficult or tricky or whatever, and that you have to work on it, do you work on it with an instrument?
Yeah, I can sit with the piano playing the
Mm-hmm.
chords, and or I record the chords and then I sing to it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not that often because I think also that like those jazz musicians I work with, it's not that from like chord changes from the American songbook. it's it's more like maybe we love the modal music very much here. Also jazz musicians. I would
Yeah.
say that's a big flavor in the Nordic jazz music. I would say. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe
Mhm.
it's just more European.
Maybe it's just more European. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And what about the rhythms in your music?
Mm.
Do you make a focus on the rhythms or not especially?
Yeah, I grew up with the really tricky
Mm.
rhythms in the folk music.
Yeah.
I mean, even a fantastic bass player like Anders is just, oh shit, where is the one? If I'm playing a polska or I made a new one or whatever. So of course I am. very aware of the rhythms. And you know, I think also for me, I because I'm a fiddler also, you know, when I play the polska, I have the rhythm in my foot. So it's if I do like snap, like if it's a polska 1 2 3, like la di da da di da di da la di di da da di da di da la di da di da di da, or whatever. I just come up with some. It's not a polska, but yeah, it's a polska, but I just did it freely now. But 1 2 3. So you have the beat, and then you play over it in a way, going into the rhythm or flying over and put it down in there. So it's not flying all the time, but flying sometimes and then down. So I think I love to phrase over the beat. And you know, also when the free pulsation in singing, that's very important in the tradition. It's not so straight ahead. It can be really tricky. And yeah.
And is it important to take risk and to let go when you improvise or when you sing a song, or I don't know, when you sing in general, or when you play music?
It's very important the now. You cannot decide what phrase you are going to do. You have to be now. Otherwise you are trying to catch the phrase, and that's not a good idea.
No, it's true.
You have to be the phrase.
And you're also an instrumentalist, so do you think it has an impact on your singing?
Yes. I think so. And vice versa. So my singing has an impact in my fiddling.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And the way of the fiddling have impact in my singing.
Okay. And you compose quite a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Do you have a process of composing or composition techniques, or does it also come like very instinctively?
Yes, I would say that. But there are different levels you work on when you compose, I think. Very often the lyrics comes first, if it's not an instrumental piece, of course.
Yeah.
Or a word, maybe a sentence, or just a few words that you expand. And yeah, I think the first, sometimes I'm out walking and then kind of a groove when I'm walking, and then 2 words maybe in my dialect, it suits so good, like that. And then I record, the voice memos. We all know
Yes.
the fantastic voice memos.
Our best friend.
But and then after that, it's kind of, you have to, where does it lead? And then maybe you have to work a little on it. And so I would say it's a combination, but it's the first seed, or do you say that seed? The first seed inside, it's coming. And then if you write for very, like, I'm not so good at writing for big orchestras, but I've written for like anyway, like up to 7 musicians.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have then you have to then I work like if I want to be like, did you listen to Blåfärdig? It's me and a quartet of string musicians, folk musicians, and a percussion player. Then it was a really because I had to really write exact sometimes.
Okay, so that means you wrote the arrangements for
Yeah, 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 yeah,
every instrument.
yeah. But also a mix of letting hear the improvisation, and then you get some. I write some keywords, maybe the model scale, or keywords that I know that they know.
Mm.
Uh, so I it's important to for me when I write to I write for by hand still. So I always write some things or do a picture or something like that that can inspire,
Okay.
or just a, you know, it says more than a than a score that's really strictly sometimes. But of course, when I do an arrangement, I also record on my totally ancient garage band and try some things. So it's kind of also, this sounds good, improvising to the melody, and then you pick out if you do arrangement, and then yeah, now. So you work in different levels, but the
Okay.
first seed of the music and the lyrics comes instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you write for the other instruments, so you do it with the piano or?
The piano or my violin or viola. If it's string music, I try. I'm not that good. I don't have that extremely good technique that I want them to play with, but
Yes.
I can try some things. But the piano is quite important in my composing also. Mm.
So you sing, you play the piano, the
Mm.
violin,
Mm.
the
And
viola.
viola, yeah. Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, I play some flutes, small other wooden folk flutes also. Yeah.
Wow. Impressive.
Mm.
Now, a totally different question.
Mm.
So, do you have the impression that your voice is changing with age or with time?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I'm much I have more lowness
Yeah.
in my body now, and I like that. And I can be quite high pitched still, but not so light as I was when I was younger.
Okay.
So every day it changes, and actually I like that. Some yeah, it's very the voice is new every day in a way, but I can feel that I'm darker in my voice, or
Mm-hmm.
lower in my voice now. And also that the experience all years, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course it changes,
Like the human body. I mean,
like the human body.
yeah. And do you have a specific vocal hygiene that you follow?
Hygiene, what's that?
Um, I mean, some rules. Okay, I'm a singer, so I have to be careful with this or with that,
Ah,
and I'm
yeah,
doing
yeah. Okay.
this. And
Well, I have toured so much. I have been singing so much, but I'm actually quite. I like to. I'm very aware of warming up, because sometimes I do really, really technical, really hard, difficult things. But it doesn't mean that I'm singing all the scales or that. To make one note, one tone land in your whole body, that's important. So it's kind of more discovering the voice inside you so it can come out, more than tricky upwarming things. But I'm like, otherwise, if you are going to sing every night, that will destroy you if you don't warm up. So I do that. But I'm not as particularly, I do many things that that many singers say, oh, doesn't that hurt your voice?
Like what? I want to know.
Saw I like to do sounds, you know. That's very, very from my herding and the way of calling and animal sounds and like that. So I would say that I'm not so what do you say, försiktig. I go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm.
So you're not afraid to use your voice differently and to hurt it, or I don't know.
No.
You're confident enough.
Because, and I think that's also a very good thing, that I have been singing acoustically extremely much. So nowadays, many singers just sing very like that into the mic like this, and they don't use the body. And then they will be afraid of hurting the voice. You have to have the power, my God. And singing acoustically, rehearsing, singing on stage acoustically. I mean, in the beginning, we didn't have like PA systems and in the beginning, when the PA came into the music very much, like in the folk music, we had, you know, one little Fostex, and then, you know, it was just, you had to be like body singing.
So true.
Old-fashioned way of it.
I love it. Well, that was it for today, except if you want to add something, Lena.
I just want to add, I like to sing like that also, but in a way to be dynamic is very important for me, to follow the music and to expand. I mean, like any instrument or way of, it's important to express.
Yeah.
Now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It was such a pleasure to listen to all your stories. And, well, it's opening also a new vision for me. So it's really very interesting, because now I understand much better the way I hear you when I'm listening to you, you know?
Ah, that's good. It was a pleasure for talking to you as well, really.
Thank you so much.